Okay, Human Hope Familia, we have Campbell, my new friend who I have been stalking for a few months now. You find somebody on Instagram, you find somebody that you just really appreciate the work that they do, and that is you. So thanks for hanging out on the Human Hope podcast, and welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So excited to be on this side of the podcast.
Yes, on this. So you did mention that you are Insta Familia. Is this
Yes.
true? Is it like you're? I'm freaking out when I even heard you say that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Since 2021, all
Okay.
things Insta Familia. So it's been really cool just following the journey. I heard you speak in person and was captivated and was like, yep, this is the kind of person I want to hear and be a part of their community. And so started following and, really found your work to really impact me. My favorite episode so far is when you invited the aunties to come talk after the Will Jada instance.
Yeah.
I was like, this is what I needed. This is the discourse. And so,
Yes.
shared it with my friends and we had our own little pre-auntie, almost auntie conversation time. So
Oh, wow.
appreciate your work.
I love it. Yes. Well, listen, I have been trying to get the Black Aunties gang to start a podcast themselves for a long time because we just need them. We need them on a weekly basis,
Yeah.
Not just when I invite them on here. But so anyway, I appreciate you being part of the fam. And now being on the Human Hope fam as we're starting a series, and we're in a series about mental health. And so first of all, before I even get into all my questions for you, because I have 15,000, and what this probably will end up doing, just so everyone knows, will probably be Carlos trying to steal an hour of his own therapy. So just stop me if I start going a little too deep into my own feelings. But why don't we start here? Why don't you tell us how you got into this space where, you own your own counseling center. You are, you are doing this work with therapy on not only a weekly basis, probably a daily basis, and this is your ethos. Tell us how and how you got here.
Wow. Great question. I got here because of my own mental health struggles. I got here in 2013. I had a suicide attempt and it was failed by the grace of God. And in that moment, I really got to encounter God for the first time and was an on fire believer, ready, let's go, let's do it. And then even with this real tangible experience I had with God, at the same time, I was depressed again, was anxious again, and felt like nobody could explain to me why, apart from you're just not good enough, you're not praying hard enough, you're not going to enough services, you're not serving enough. And yet I was like, all these things I'm hearing doesn't feel like the heart of the God that I encountered. And so I just got curious. I got curious about my pain. I got curious about God. I got curious about how he feels and how he responds to our mental and emotional pain. I got curious about why intangible things felt like physical wounds. And so I started going to therapy and got a lot of healing from my own trauma therapy. And also at the same time was like, I think there needs to be more people in this space that look like me. And more people in the space who can speak to the people who feel like God has turned their back on their pain. And so went to school, got my counseling degree, and the rest is kind of history.
Wow. People that feel like God has turned his back on their pain. I mean, we could spend a whole hour on that statement.
We sure could.
I feel like if there is something that I get on a daily basis in my DMs, especially when I talk about my faith, it's people that have been traumatized or wounded in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, but God hasn't, like, God's not answering my prayers. So you do therapy, but you also include, if I'm assuming if the client desires, an aspect of faith.
For sure. Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
an aspect of faith. Yeah. So talk to me about how can there be therapy and God in the same conversation and in the same space? Why is that important in your world?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll say this. I serve all people of all contexts. I have atheist clients, Christian clients, Muslim clients, Hindu clients. I have clients from all backgrounds. And one thing that studies will show you is faith, period, is foundational for healing, right? Wow. The belief that something you have not yet experienced can be experienced. The belief
Yeah.
that something you haven't seen with your eyes or touched with your hands is something that you're pursuing with your real life energy. That's the foundation of faith. If we don't believe that something can change, we don't act like things will change. And that's a lot of what healing is saying, I believe something will change. I believe that if I strike one more time, I might hit gold. I might hit that well. And so I think that it's actually much easier to integrate people's faith, because my job is not to come in with the Bible and scriptures. I don't do any of that. I really invite them, whatever your source, whatever your relationship with God is, I help you get curious about it. Right. And that's my favorite thing about what I do is I don't really make many statements, but I ask a lot of questions. And I do that because, one, in my personal life, that's what Jesus does. He asks a lot of questions. He's deeply curious, but also like when you talk someone into something, you can talk them out of it. When wisdom is hard fought, they don't let go of it, right? And so when I ask questions about, okay, what do you believe about God? Well, I think that God is merciful and kind and all the things we sing in songs. And it's like, okay, how does that reflected in what you anticipate when you're in your low moments?
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Helping them get curious about how they see God.
Yes. Helping them get curious. Curiosity, normally is the thing that I have found leads to discovery, right? I mean, you can't discover anything unless you're curious. And that goes with anything in life, right? That goes, curiosity leads to empathy. It can lead to a lot of things. So you find yourself, because of your own mental health journey in a space where now you're helping others with it. To the listener that may be thinking like, well, Carlos, like, everything's, I don't know. Like, I don't have any quote unquote trauma in my life. Like, I don't have any, I don't have anything that, and I am actually thinking of a couple people in particular that are just in my life that really push back against, it's just therapy or counseling, just not for me. Like, talk to us about why therapy is important, not just for somebody that's in the midst of like a traumatic moment, but for really all of us, because gosh, I just feel like if everybody can get this, we just have a much healthier society.
Oh my goodness. And I think what's so powerful about that question and about the community you've built is you don't know what you're missing until you get connected to someone who's not like you. Right. And part of the value of going to therapy is getting a different set of eyes on your lived experience, right? Maybe to validate how good it is or to help you see how some of the things are dysfunctional. And for people who feel like I don't have any trauma, I don't have any pain, I don't have the thing to go to therapy for, the question I often ask is, well, there's two things I usually ask. First, I say, is there any past pain that affects how you live in the present and then affects how you perceive the future?
Wow.
Right. Is there any past pain? Words, actions, the way someone looked at you that affects how you show up in the present and then also affects how you perceive the future. So that's like the first round of helping them see that there could be something that they could work on and something that they can. And it's not even about working on something. It's about getting something. You deserve this. You deserve a life that's a little more free than the life you have now. And the second thing I usually ask people is like, what's a pattern you want to let go of, but just can't?
Wow. Everybody can answer those two questions.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Yep. And the part B of that question is, and if you could never engage in that pattern again, what emotion would you have to get acquainted with?
Wow. Oh, God. That's half the reason people don't want to go, because maybe do you feel like maybe people are like, I don't want to answer that question, Kobe.
Yes.
I don't want to know.
Absolutely. I have a lot of clients who come in and they're like, I'm not here for trauma therapy. I just really like the way you communicate. I just want help starting this and stopping this, or like stopping this and starting this. And I don't want to talk about the past. And it's not about like, oh, I don't want to talk about the past. It's about, why are you so resistant to?
Yes.
Sometimes we know there's something back there that's tied to where we are right now. We just think that if we don't look at it, it will disappear. But trauma does not get resolved with time. Pain does not get resolved with time. It gets resolved with attention.
Human Hope Familia, you know that I believe Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours and hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed has a powerful, powerful host of tools that can help you do all of it. They streamline hiring with powerful tools, and they help you find matched candidates right away. When I say match, I mean Indeed has something called Instant Match. Over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. That is pretty crazy. And I actually found my most recent employee using the tools that Indeed gives you. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/human hope. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/human hope. Just go to Indeed.com/human hope and support the show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/human hope. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. You know, when you go down a rabbit hole with your health, like something goes wrong, you feel a little weird, you start to Google it. Next thing you know, you're like, well, I got about 2 days left to live. That is my problem. And that is why I need ZocDoc. Okay. You've been stewing over like a health problem you have. And like the last resort, it's like, well, you just text a friend like, hey, do you think I'm dying? I don't know. It's extremely unlikely that you're going to find quality medical advice in your group chat. That is why you and I both need ZocDoc. ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient reviewed, take your insurance, and are available when you need them, and treat almost every condition under the sun. No more doctor roulette sourcing the internet for questionable reviews. With ZocDoc, you have a trusted guide to connect you to your favorite doctor that you haven't even met yet. Millions of people use ZocDoc's free app to find and book a doctor in their neighborhood who is patient reviewed and fits their needs and schedule. That's so big, just right. All you got to do is go to ZocDoc.com/human hope and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That is ZocDoc.com/human hope. ZocDoc.com/human hope. Yes. Wow. It's so good. Hopefully all the Human Hope family is on speed dial to a therapist in some way, shape, or form at this point. Yes. Because I feel like, this is crucial. This is vital. Those two questions, I'm gonna sit on those for a second. The first one, and I can just share with you a little bit of my journey with that first question, which and the first question being, is there something in your life that, and I may have said this, I may be quoting the question incorrectly, but in my head, it's like, is there something that a pattern of behavior right now that is linked to a specific moment in your past that you'd love to maybe walk through and work through? And for me, for the longest time, I didn't know why. I just didn't feel like an authority, like my voice was authoritative enough. I always felt like, well, I would always apologize before I said anything. I was just kind of like, well, listen, like, you don't have to take it from me, but this is just kind of what I feel. Yeah. And I don't know, I was just very timid in my leadership. I didn't feel like a leader. Like I didn't feel like anyone should follow me. Like they could listen to me and make up their own mind. And then one day, like I was in therapy, and I'll just never forget my therapist asked me, like, hey, so let's think back. When was the point in your journey when somebody told you that nobody should follow you? And I thought to myself, no one's ever told me that. But then sure enough, 2 seconds later, bam. I remember the moment when I was on staff at a church I won't even say where, but I was on staff at a church, and my supervisor came up to me and literally said this. This is what they said. Carlos, this is funny. Carlos, listen, because I was asking like if I could get some help, like if I could have a staff around me, like get a couple, maybe a part-time position to help me. Carlos, you're not a leader in that way. You're a worship leader. You're really good on stage and you're very entertaining. But like, you're more like Kobe Bryant. I'm like Phil Jackson. And so you get on the court, you play, and this conversation rushed into my mind where I realized, holy cow, that was the moment that I made the decision that I can't lead another human being and that I'm not to be trusted to direct somebody. I can do it from behind a microphone on stage with a guitar because I'm entertaining. And Kobe, that was 15 years of me making completely different decisions than I should have been making because of that. What, like, is that what you're talking about? Because I feel like that's what happened to me.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And I I don't want to get too deep into it, but like, I try to help my clients separate what is true from what happened and what is true about the interaction. So the moment that someone said you were not a leader, that moment was factual, but the truth you extracted from it was not factual. Right.
Okay. So unpack that. Unpack the difference between a fact of the fact of the statement that happened in the moment versus the truth of what it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact is, someone did say that to you. Someone did say that you are not a leader. That doesn't mean that the emotions, the value that you extracted from it is also a fact. Sometimes we think that the value that we got from the moment is as factual as the moment. The moment did happen, right? And sometimes people are like, oh, but it happened. And it's like, yes, it happened, but that doesn't mean what you extracted from it is factual, right?
Wow.
Because the fact is, people are eager to follow you. And I find, this is why I love trauma therapy. I find that the enemy usually finds this like one thing to hammer in. He's very specific. And like the one thing he hammers in, the antithesis of that value is really what your destiny is, right? If it's like you don't have a voice, it's because something incredible is going to happen if you use that voice. If it's you're not a leader, it's because you were designed to lead differently than what other people thought leadership was, and so I feel like it's just tried and true with every person when we find this value that we extract from our pain, which is called a negative core belief. The antithesis of that negative core belief often becomes the underlying like purpose that drives our life.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm going to have you on this podcast like once a month because I just feel like we can unpack this constantly. This is so good. Okay. So helping people, so again, I just want to circle back to the listener and just let every listener know that like all of these quirks, all of these things that you're like, gosh, I wish I could get past that one weird behavior, that one thing that is, it doesn't mean that there's like this huge traumatic moment in your life. It doesn't mean that you're like, that you're not able to be a strong person if you go to talk to somebody. What I'm hearing is that really what this is doing is helping the person get past maybe some of these things that are getting in the way of them being their fullest self.
Yes. And that speaks to the second question I asked about what's a pattern you want to change but just can't, right? Because like if this was just a clear external moral willpower thing, if we had a pattern we wanted to change, we would just change it. Right. Sure. And I think that when we ask that question and people realize that there usually is a pattern they want to change but can't change, there is like an awareness of like a deeper influence of something, because trauma is not just the big moment that happened to us. Trauma is what that moment created in us that we carry for the rest of our lives unless we do something about it.
Gosh. Okay. So again, let's sit there. Trauma isn't necessarily the moment. It's what we're carrying from the moment. Yep. That is just so, okay. So what about those of us that maybe we encountered trauma and we don't even remember it? Is that something, I mean, is that even, maybe something happened to someone before they even have a memory, before, is there such thing as someone having to deal with trauma that happened when they were an infant or when they were a toddler that they may not even remember? Is that something that we can carry?
Yes, absolutely. It's called pre-verbal trauma, right? Our first language is behavior, right? You smile at a baby, or you make a sad face, or you laugh with them. And that's how we communicate. And, things like proximity, how often our needs are responded to, the ways that our caregivers respond to us when we're in distress or when we're excited. Those are all things that we adopt and absorb even in our childhood. But that, just because it's pre-verbal in its origin, doesn't mean it's not possible to heal it. Because the hope of the reality of trauma not being the moment is, it doesn't matter that the moment's in the past. If the trauma is what I carried, then I can always heal the trauma. I can always deal with it because the trauma is in here. It's in my heart. It's in my body. And so there's an opportunity for resolution because I don't need that moment to be reversed.
Wow. Okay. So you're saying in my body, like our bodies literally can carry trauma?
Yes. So this is like something I pray everyone holds on to. Our social, first of all, we are whole human beings. God didn't create like our mind, our body, our nervous system. It's all of it at once, right?
Okay.
Our mothers didn't push out one part of us, all of us at once.
Right.
So
Right.
Our social interactions have genetic and neurological reactions, right? So that's why when you see a friend that you missed, you smile, you feel excited, right? Some dopamine might be released in your body, right? And then you feel the joy in your body that is tied to the connection you have to that person in their spirit, right? But that is also true of the inverse. If you're constantly scared, if you're constantly nervous, right? Adrenaline, cortisol might pump into your body. And then what our body experiences, our body prepares for most. Right? Our body loves predictability. So if you're constantly afraid, your body's going to prepare to be constantly afraid. Now, that's often what happens in people's bodies when we experience trauma and then develop anxiety disorders and chronic illnesses that are related to this over excretion of these hormones related to these emotions, right? So emotions are not up here, they're in our bodies. Now, when we don't resolve that, and the principle of this is rooted in epigenetics. When we don't resolve that, we pass on that genetic weakness, that genetic disposition to our offspring, right? But what I love about all of this, we pass it on. Literally, I don't even know how to like talk about this without getting too nerdy, but
I love get nerdy. Let's go. Let's get nerdy.
Our experiences are literally genetically encoded, right?
Wow.
That's why, but we know that. We know that up here, we just don't realize it. So if someone's grandfather struggles with alcoholism and then their father struggles with alcoholism, we might say, oh, that person may not want to drink because their daddy struggled with it and their grandpa, that's epigenetics, right?
Oh, we're just saying it in a very simple way.
Yes. And that's why I love this field. It's really giving language for what we already kind of know in here. Right. Yeah. And so, it's encoded into our DNA. You can tell based on someone's DNA if they've experienced sexual abuse, if they've experienced trauma. It is literally encoded into our DNA. It's in our bodies, and the same systems that help us experience and metabolize the harm in our bodies are the same systems that help us experience and metabolize healing in our bodies as well.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I mean, I'm sitting here going like, okay, so oh my gosh, so hang on. So if this is where my mind goes, say for instance, I see generational anxiety in my family, and I see my mother is anxious about things, and I'm anxious about things, and if I crack that code, and if I find healing from that, Am I in a sense, shutting off passing generational trauma to my grandchildren, my great grandchildren, because I do the work myself?
Yes. 1,000% yes. 1,000% yes.
1,000%.
And not just breaking one thing, you're creating one thing. You're not just breaking generational anxiety, you're creating generational resilience. Right?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. That is so good. Keep going with that. Keep going with I don't want to stop you because I feel like this is really important for people to hear.
Wow, we're creating so many things. So we're creating resilience. We're creating a disposition to joy, right? I just read a study the other day that said that like forgiveness is tied to our brain structure. The desire and ability to forgive is also tied to a decrease in anxiety, a decrease in depression, an increase in emotional regulation, an increase in self-esteem. That like all these things that help us connect deeper to other people, to ourselves, all of them are intertwined with each other. So when we break that generational disposition
Yeah.
to depression and break that generational disposition to anxiety, to criticism, to skepticism, we are building the opposite of that. We're building a generational disposition to generosity, to kindness, to servitude, to self-esteem, to gratitude. And I feel like it's easy to think, okay, this is going to affect people 2, 3, 4 generations down. But I have
Yeah.
seen literally in a year, generations change from one client who did trauma work, who was brave enough, because at the core of all healing is courage, who was brave enough to talk to their parent and see them as a person instead of just my mom who hurt me. And then that person spoke to their siblings, and then they spoke, and just thinking that it's in our bodies, but it's also in our behaviors. That when we feel differently, we act differently. And sometimes we have to act differently to feel differently. I saw this somewhere, but essentially the quote said that our appetite doesn't change because we want our diet to change. Our appetite changes based on when we change our diet, right? So we have to
Wow.
put something in regularly, and
Yeah.
what we put in will change what we seek out. Right. And for many of us, we've been putting in the same things just because we don't have the resources. We don't even know that we're putting in things that are not helpful. And again, that ties back to why it's so important to go to therapy and just
Yeah.
let yourself be cared for by someone.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the listener is listening to this going, okay, man, wow. So this is actually so much bigger than I think a lot of people think, right? I think for the longest time,
Yeah.
even me, I thought therapy was like, no, you go to therapy when something bad happens to you.
Yep.
And what I'm hearing is so much more holistically, you know, you're talking about it being holistic, and your mother just didn't birth your brain, right? Like
Yeah.
she birthed your nervous system and all these things. I mean, I even think to like
Yeah.
last Sunday, like I'm on my phone, I'm thinking of the holistic picture of who I am, and I'm on Twitter, and somebody is like going after me on Twitter, and I'm like, I feel like I feel okay. I'm like, whatever, they're not bugging me, and I like, am kind of going back and forth with them a little bit. But then I walked into the bathroom, and I looked at my face, and my face was like as red as an apple. And I thought to myself, wait, am I sick? Like maybe do I have a cold? And I and I was like, why is my face red? And I thought to myself, oh, wait a second. I've spent the last 20 minutes like with such heightened feelings of like, this guy's challenging my worth, and he is.
Yeah.
And I realized, holy cow, like this affected my body. This affected my face. And so if that interaction on Twitter with another human being is literally affecting my face, how much more is actually affecting it? Is it affecting my heart and my blood and all of these other things? And so I just want everyone to understand that this stuff is holistic. It's not just your emotions.
Yeah. And for many people, they find out that they have an emotional, a spiritual, a psychological like wound through their bodies, through their IBS, through their struggle sleeping, through their cravings for sugar or their cravings for alcohol, right? And what you spoke about, what you just demonstrated, is that we can't control emotions. We control how we respond to emotions. Emotions are automatic reactions to external stimuli. That means that your body responded based on what your already set value system was, right? Which is you value yourself. So you should get angry when someone challenges your worth, right? So your body responded, and then you had an option of how you responded to that reaction, right? And helping people understand that nobody has ever stopped being angry by hearing the words "stop being angry," because by the time you said "stop being angry," the adrenaline's already pumping in my body, and I physically can't stop that process of going forth. It's already happening, right? And so helping people see that like sometimes your body is telling you something. We have to listen. Your heart palpitations, your excessive sweating, your blurry vision sometimes, your trouble sleeping, your
Yeah.
oversleeping. Your body is telling you, hey, we're struggling, we're hurting, we need attention.
Yeah.
And we should never be afraid to give ourselves that attention.
What's my favorite children's vitamin? It is Hiya. That's right, Hiya. Hiya are the most incredible children's vitamins that I have been able to find myself. But I want to let you know is that while most children's vitamins are filled with 5 grams of sugar, and of course, all that sugar is going to contribute to like bad, nasty stuff in your kid's body. Hiya Health, they don't use that sugar. No, Hiya is made with 0 sugar and 0 gummy junk. Yet it tastes great and it's perfect for picky eaters. My kids included, even though they are, the youngest is 17 years old, loves his Hiya vitamins. It is non-GMO. It's vegan, dairy-free, allergy-free, gelatin-free, nut-free, and everything else free that you can imagine. Hiya is designed for kids of all ages and sent straight to your door so parents don't have to worry about every single thing. You got one thing less you can worry about. I love that I get it shipped to my door. I don't have to go out, and I know that we got some good vitamins in the house. So we've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/humanhope. Everybody now, open up your web browser. Go to hiyahealth.com/humanhope. This deal is not available on the regular website. Go to hiyahealth.com/humanhope to get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. I just don't want this to get lost. I really want people to sit on the fact that our body literally can tell us and remind us when our heart needs work, when our, you know, I talk about it in my book 2 books ago, Enter Wild, how I was going through a season of massive heart palpitations. I like my heart was just skipping like all day. Like it was so frustrating. And I was like Googling, and I was like going to the doctor, and they were like going to put me on beta blockers and all of these things to like get my heart to like, you know, I was literally like at my wit's end trying to figure out. And I went to this man named John Elam, who does this inner healing and prayer kind of, he's a therapist / inner healing prayer guy. And I go to him, and it had been months, and I'm in this man's, I do his session. I don't know, 30 minutes in, and my heart stopped palpitating. And I'm like, holy cow. And it was my journey through therapy that stopped it, as opposed to me. I believe in medicine. Listen, I believe that medicine is important. I believe that obviously all of those things can help our bodies, but we just have to know that a lot of these things that we may be going through are connected to our minds and our hearts. Yep.
Our bodies don't know how to rationalize pain. It just expresses it. You know, we can rationalize like, that made me upset, but it's not that big of a deal, and I'll talk about it later. We can do that with our brain. We can do that with our mouth. But like, our body does not know how to hide pain. Our body does not know how to lie about pain. Right?
Yeah.
We can lie, but our body's like, girl, we are struggling. Help. SOS.
It's so true. It's why I tell Heather, my wife, all the time. I was like, I'm like, baby, like, I know you're telling me right now that I am not bothering you, but please tell your face, because your face is telling me that I am a bother. She's like, I hate that I can't tell my face. My face can't lie to you, right? It's so funny. I love it. I love it. Your book, Why Am I Like This? I love it. Literally, that's I say that all the time. Like, oh my gosh, why am I like this? First of all, tell me in your point of view, where'd that line in that title come from? Do you say that a lot?
Yes, I say that a lot. My clients say that a lot. And I just knew if there was a big sentence that said, why am I like this on the front of the book, it would draw the right people. I was like, the people who know. Deep cries out to deep. Curious cries out to curious, okay?
why am I the way I am? You know,
Yes.
I shout that out all the time. Half the time I'm crying when I say it, and half the time I'm laughing when I say it.
Yeah.
Tell us about the book. I mean, you know, it says
Yes.
how to break cycles, heal
Yeah.
from trauma, and restore your faith. I mean, that's a pretty big statement right there, right?
Yeah.
Like how can we break? Tell us a little bit about the book.
Yes. Well, the book, I want to jump back to the title really quick because you said you say that sometimes laughing and sometimes crying. And
Yeah.
that is kind of why I titled it that. It's like we
Yeah.
say it as a prayer, we say it as a joke, we say it, you know, in jest, and we say it in despair. And yet the question is the same. And so the book really is about helping people see how their everyday patterns are tied to the past pain they haven't addressed. And so really this is a book that infuses people with courage to take the necessary steps. Really, I took like the first 2 or 3 months of what therapy looks like with me, and I condensed it into a literary work that has questions and prompts. And my practice is deeply somatic, deeply body based, and so I have body based practices in there for people to not just read the information, but to take it and embody it in their lives, and to help them see that they have trauma if they do have it. Help them see what to do with it next. Literally, the first half of the book is understanding your pain, and the second book is healing your wounds. It's healing the things that you've experienced. And then also inviting God into it. Like I take some evidence-based calming strategies and I marry them with ancient spiritual disciplines. I tie them together the way I would with my clients and help them invite God into the present physical experience of despair. Brene Brown says it best that faith is not it's not medicine for our wounds. It's a midwife to help us get through the pushing. And so the practices are to help people get through the pushing of where healing is going to take them.
I love that. So I first of all, if you're listening to the podcast, I need thousands and thousands of you to go order the book right now. Okay, let's get this bad boy to number 1 on Amazon. Let's just go ahead and do it. We all need it. I'm going to order it myself. But also, I want to for those that, because this is what's happening right now. I'll tell you what's happening. It's what's happening to me. What's happening is people are listening to this going like, okay, how can I get on Kobe's list? Like, how can I get her to help me with what's her number? How can I sign up to be one of her clients? And so people can hear you. And I mean, here's the unfortunate situation is you're a human being that has 24 hours a day. So you've got clients already. You have your work, you have your practice, but everybody's wondering, how can I find somebody like you to help me through this? And that is one question I get a lot because I live in Nashville, Tennessee, which is there's a lot of great therapists in Nashville. There's people that are listening to this podcast that are listening from small towns and trying to figure this therapy thing out. Walk us all through, finding a respectable therapist.
Woo, that is a really big question. I will say this, therapists are more slammed now than they have ever been. I'm talking to people who are 20, 30 years in the game and they're like, I've never seen it like this, which to me is beautiful, that people are hungry for healing. And, amen to that. So I would say places like Psychology Today. I would say also use social media to vet the therapist. Not every therapist is on social media, but the ones who are, because it is a media platform for them to advertise, the ones who are kind of sharing what they do, how they do it, what they specialize in, and you kind of get a taste of who they are. Don't forget that you can get free consultations from many therapists. Okay. And I would say, don't forget to, it's okay to date therapists. It's okay to say, I like you, I don't like you. And this is my rule of thumb for myself and then for the people I work with. Make sure your therapist is someone that you would want to be your friend, even if they aren't.
Wow.
And not by external demographics, but just by heart.
Yeah.
Is this someone that I would feel comfortable laughing with? Is this someone I would feel comfortable crying in front of? Right.
Wow.
So and I will say my practice in Charlotte here, we are taking some new clients. It's me and my favorite person ever, Maria. We provide services in both English and Spanish. We have intensives as well. And so you can visit my website at healingcircletherapy.com, rather healingcircletherapy.org if you do want to book a session.
Hey, run on that, Charlotte Human Hope fam. I'll get on that now.
Yes.
That would be that's amazing. Online therapy versus in-person therapy. Is there a difference? Do you recommend one versus the other?
I would say go for online just because it's most accessible right now. There's something about being in front of a person, though. Like, I miss that.
Yeah.
I miss my therapist
Yeah.
is in a different city, even though she's in the same state. And man, I just miss like the unspoken physical, emotional connection that comes from just someone looking you in the eyes. I totally miss that. So I would say if you can find someone in person and you really enjoy them, run, don't walk, lock them down, put a ring on them if you need to. But I would say that there is some really powerful work that can happen online. I've seen that with the clients I work with, and also for myself and my own therapy, that it can be really powerful regardless of the technology before us. So don't be afraid to see a therapist online.
This is great. And one more question that actually somebody asked me. I had a question box up 2 days ago, and somebody just said, "Hey, Carlos, how do I know when it's time to stop therapy?" So there's a lot of people that I think have been in therapy. I know people that have been in therapy for 10 years, people that have been in therapy for 5 years. How does somebody, is therapy, is the goal to get you to not go to therapy, or is the goal to continue to stay in therapy?
I think I would say the goal is to get you to not be in therapy, but the goal is never for you to never go back. If that makes sense.
That's good.
So there's something, I call it the break. Like I tell my clients, it's time for the break. Because when you start coming to therapy and you have the problem and you have the answer, and the answer is the resources I've given you, and we're really just spilling tea and recapping about how you did it, then maybe, you're good. And, I help my clients understand that like you're going to feel a range of emotions. We need the full range of emotions to live a full life. Yeah. And so the fact that you can get through it by yourself with a sense of sturdiness, because there are times where we need to be out of therapy to build that self-confidence and to realize we are capable. We can do this, right? But life is unpredictable. Crisis can happen. No one knew 2020 was coming to bop us upside the head the way it did.
Nobody knew.
And so I would say have a therapist that, like when a hard time comes, you can go in. And I have clients I've been seeing for 5 years, and they'll pop in and just say, "Hey, I just want to check in with my heart, get eyes on the situation." And I'll be like, "Yep, you're doing it right. You're using all the skills." And then they go on about their way, and they know that I'm always a present support for whenever they want to come back.
Amazing. I just because I love my pickup truck, it's the same thing. When there's a problem, it goes into the shop for a while. But I always bring it in for a tune-up, even when things are going good. It's like, oh, I got to change the oil. So go see your therapist just like that. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Campbell, thank you so much. This was more than I thought it was going to be. Not that we've never had a conversation, so I didn't know, but thank you for hanging out with the Human Hope Familia. I mean, this has been really special, and I think it's really going to help a whole lot of people.
So too. Yeah.